we're gonna install this cover. Before we install it, we're gonna have to change the tensioner. We got the brand new tensioner here, and install the new seal. Actually, we're gonna just pull out the old tensioner first. We're gonna install the new seal, and then we're gonna install the other tensioner, because the new tensioner might be on our way a little bit. Now this is the part that drives me crazy every time. I don't know if you can see here, but there's a cotter pin or a split pin under there, because that's the only way to put the pin in and out. But how do you pull it out and how do you put it in? That's like really... Okay, I was able to straighten the rear end. Yes, I pulled it out. How are we gonna put it in? That's another question. But now we can pull out the pin this way. The spacers top and bottom. Good. Now, unmask. This seal is gonna have to go this way, but again, I'm gonna put just a little bit of lubrication here, just a smidge, to make it slide and not drag dry. Yeah, that's perfect. And now the part with a lot of swearing. So that's how it goes. Just for the record, before we put the pin in, we will know that the holes are in the same orientation. So now just by looking at the top of the pin, we can tell where the bottom hole is. Oh my God. What's wrong with that? Now ideally we should have a new cotter pin here, but I don't. Huh. Well, that actually worked, surprisingly. Wow, actually I was able to split it. Okay, that actually went easier than expected. Okay, now we can put it on the car. And by the way, in one of my previous videos I said that the chamfered edge on this sleeve is pointing out, but I was wrong. It actually goes with the chamfered edge towards the oil thrower. I don't know why, but that's how it is in the manual. I'm gonna take it out now and I'm gonna put it on later after the cover is on. Here I have some bolts. I put these to hold the plate in place. I have to take them out. Okay. So we have the oil thrower here. It is with the dish out. We're gonna put the sleeve later. The tap washer here is in place. We have these bolts holding the plate. So now we only have to make sure that when we're installing the cover, this tensioner goes in this direction, because I've seen a motor before that I took apart. The tensioner was installed like this under the gear. So we need to make sure that it is installed the proper way, which normally you do like this, and then you turn. That's the part that I hate, that I make a mess of this cover always. And now we can put our sleeve here with some assembly lube, just a little bit, so the seal doesn't go in dry. And again, what I said in my previous video, forget about it. The chamfered edge needs to go in first. There you go. Okay, so next we can install the distributor drive gear, which also drives the oil pump with this shaft underneath. So what happens here is this gear engages with the gear on the camshaft and then starts turning. Actually it turns counterclockwise. And since on top of it we have the distributor which engages with this slot, the distributor starts turning. And also this slot at the bottom on this shaft engages with the pump down there. I don't know if you can see it, the camera doesn't want to focus. And that's how also the oil pump is turning. So we can drop this gear down there. Then we have to turn our crank, wow, until the gear goes down. Wait, it went down already. I don't know if you saw that. And now when we turn the engine, this gear turns as well. And then on top we have the distributor pedestal, which comes like that, and then the distributor gets mounted on the pedestal. However, there's something very important here. This gear inside needs to have a little bit of end play, not a little bit, exactly 5 tau, and that of course it's determined by the pedestal. The pedestal is what blocks the gear from going up. So we need to make sure that between that gear and the bottom of the pedestal, we have exactly 5 tau distance. This distance we can change by changing the thickness of the gasket that comes here between the pedestal and the block of the engine. But if we install the pedestal and we trap the gear inside, how do we measure how much it plays? So I'll show you the procedure that is in the manual for that. For this reason, we have to take out the gear again. Okay, so to take it out, I normally use a magnet. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. In this case, it worked a little. Okay. Now we're gonna take a washer that fits inside here. That's about 1/2 inch here, but I have a bigger washer, so that's fine. And we're gonna measure it. It needs to be a really nice flat washer, without any dents, not bent or anything, because that's going to affect our measurement. So now we're going to measure the thickness of this washer, and we're going to memorize that. So that's 111 tau. That's hard to remember. We're going to drop this, we're going to put it down there. So that's how I put it. And now we can drop our gear again, making sure that the shaft goes through the hole of the washer, of course. We have to make sure that the slot on the shaft engages with the shaft of the oil pump. So I'm gonna push it down while I'm turning the engine. There you go. So now it fell down. Now here this is not very clean, so I'm gonna try to clean it. I should have done that earlier. Okay, it's nice and clean, and I also made sure that the bottom of the pedestal is nice and clean. So now we can drop it down as far as it goes. We're gonna put our nuts, and I'm just gonna finger tighten them because I don't wanna break the pedestal, because now the pedestal is raised. There's a gap here on the side. So now here at the side we have a gap. Why do we have a gap? Because the washer took our end plate and raised the pedestal. So this means that if we measure this gap now and we subtract the width from the thickness of the washer, we're gonna be able to figure out our end plate, because this gap plus our end plate equals the thickness of the washer. Did you lose me already? Okay, so I'm just gonna take a whole bunch of leaves here with a filler gauge. We need more. That's too much. Maybe if we take this one out and put this one in. And this one right there. Okay, that's pretty tight here. It goes in, that's pretty tight. No. Okay. I think that's where we stand. Yeah, that's a good amount. Let's measure this. So that's 109 thou. What does this mean? It means that if we remove our washer now and drop the pedestal down to hit this surface, this means it's going to go down by 109 thou. But we know that we have 111 thou there. This means that we're going to have an end plate of 2 thou, right? So 111 minus 109 is 2 thou. But 2 thou is too little. We need 5. So this means that we still need to raise the pedestal 3 thou up. We can put a gasket of 3 thou here, and that's going to be perfect. Another way to confirm this is that if we put a gasket here now of 3 thou, that gap is going to become 106 thou. And if we take out the washer and drop this with the gasket there, we're going to be able to drop it only 106 thou, but we know that we have a washer of 111 thou, so by dropping it only 106, we're going to have another 5 thou to go down until we hit the drive gear. So that's our end plate, 5 thou. So that's how simple it is. Now in the set, in the gasket set, we have 3 gaskets, and they are all, like, my caliper is like not very precise for such a fine measurement, but it's 3 to 4 thou, something like that. In this case, we can only use 1 gasket, but they give you 3, so you can stack them if you have to. So you can stack them up to 10 thou, something like that. So we're gonna use only 1. That's what we determined. Now we can take the washer out and position the gear the proper way. Okay. There you go. And now we can put our gear back in, but this time we're gonna take care of the exact orientation. So if you can see here, this slot doesn't go through the center of the gear. It's a little bit higher than the center. So when the crankshaft is in a position in which the first cylinder is at top dead center on the firing stroke, the gear needs to be oriented this way. The smaller half of the circle here, the smaller half, needs to be on the engine side, the bigger side needs to be this way, and it needs to be something like that. It's more or less parallel to these 2 holes here. However, when we drop it, we don't have the pedestal there, so we need to predict that. So first of all, let's put the engine in this position of top dead center of the first cylinder in the firing stroke. If we have the pulley here on the crankshaft, we will easily know what the top dead center of the first cylinder is. But since we don't have the pulley, the key of the crankshaft is telling us when the first cylinder is in top dead center or the first piston is in top dead center. So we can line it up with this pointer here. So now we know that our first cylinder is in top dead center. But how do we know if it is the firing stroke or the intake stroke? Well, if it is the firing stroke, both valves need to be closed, which means there must be gap right now. However, since we took apart the whole engine, we took apart the rocker shaft, our valves are not very well adjusted still, so we have a little play here on the exhaust, but we don't have any play on the intake, so we don't know. Another way is to check number 10 and number 12. These are the intake of number 5 and the exhaust of number 6. When they are open and they start going up, that's when the firing stroke of the first cylinder comes. This is just how it goes. So I hope you see it. I'm gonna put my hands on number 10 and 12 and I'm gonna wait until they go all the way down. Okay, so now both number 10 and number 12 started moving. They're all the way down now and they start going up. So now I know that my firing stroke on number 1 is approaching. So now I can start watching here. When my key comes all the way up, that's my top dead center on the firing stroke on first cylinder. Actually, I went past. There you go. So now I know for sure that I'm at the top dead center of the first cylinder. It's the firing stroke. So this one is loose, this one is a little bit tight, but we're gonna have to readjust the valves, that we know that. So now in this position of the crank we can put our gear in place. So like we said, the slot needs to be from the center of the circle that way, and it needs to be in this orientation. But because the teeth of this gear are diagonally, we need to go a little bit this way, so as it goes down, it's gonna turn and it's gonna end up where we want it. Now, even though I'm gonna have to take it out later again to prime the oil system, I'm doing this whole procedure for you so you can see where it needs to be. So we're gonna put it something like that, and as it goes down, it's turned a little. But now also it needs to match the slot of the oil pump. We're gonna start turning the engine now until it drops completely. There you go. Now it dropped. Now I have to go back to the top dead center, which is here. And this is my position. But I don't like it. I think we need to go one tooth in this orientation, because when we put the pedestal, the slot inside needs to match more or less these two holes. But it is one tooth off. So I'm gonna take it out again. So this is pretty much vertical. So one tooth and down. Again, we have to turn it until there you go. Now it fell down. Now we're going back to top dead center. Right there. And now this is our position. I don't know if you can see the slot, but it is pretty much in line with these holes. I'm gonna put one gasket just to remind me, but since I'm gonna have to take it apart again for the oil system priming, I'm not gonna tighten anything now. I'm just gonna put the gasket here, my washers and everything. So now if you put the distributor in, and it matches the slot, it's gonna be in the right orientation. Alright, and since we have the valve train open, let's adjust the valves now. Now, since I haven't moved the crank, I know that my first piston is still in top dead center of the firing stroke. So now I can adjust my first cylinder. I'm gonna use this very simple method. I'm just gonna keep turning the engine then until number 5 is top dead center, because that's the firing order. 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. So after I adjust number 1, I'm gonna turn the crank 120 degrees. I can put a screwdriver or something here to find the approximate top dead center of number 5. Then I'm gonna turn another 120 degrees and I'm gonna adjust number 3, another 120 degrees, and I'm gonna adjust number 6, and so on and so on. But there are other methods here. There's one method which is explained in the manual, where you turn the engine until number 10 and 12 are fully open. At that time you adjust number 1 and 3. Then you turn the engine until I don't remember the sequence, but other two valves are open fully, and then you adjust other two, and gives you a full chart in the manual. And there's another method which people use, that's the rule of 13 for 6-cylinder engine and rule of 9 for a 4-cylinder engine. Actually, Steve Denton has beautiful videos about these two methods, and I'm gonna put links in the description below. Basically, rule of 13 is you turn the engine until, let's say, like in this case, number 4 is fully open. So you subtract 4 from 13 and you get 9. So with number 4 fully open, you adjust number 9, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now we can adjust number 9. With number 6 fully open, you adjust number 7, because 6 plus 7 is 13. With number 2 fully open, you adjust number 11, because 2 and 11 is 13, and so on and so forth. But I don't know, I've never used them, because you can make a mistake. For example, here it is a little bit complicated, because now actually this one is fully open, not this one, and I almost made a mistake. So now this is number 6, so now we should be able to adjust number 7. So that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do number 1, because now it is in top dead center of the firing stroke, and then I'm gonna turn the crank 120 degrees, I'm gonna adjust number 5, 120 degrees number 3, etc, etc. The gap here needs to be 10 thou or 0.25 millimeters, and this one is pretty good. Actually, number 1 is pretty good. I don't need to do anything. Number 2 is tight. Great. So now I can turn the engine 120 degrees, and I'm gonna wait for number 5 to come up. There you go. Now it's top dead center of number 5, and now we can adjust the two. This one is good. This one needs to be adjusted, needs to be loosened a little. It has a little play, but it's not enough. So 153, so 153, so 120 degrees, so my number 3 is gonna have to come up. There you go. There you go, that's my top center number 3. Too loose, too tight. So our valves are adjusted. Of course, after it runs for a while, we're gonna have to readjust them, but they're ready now for the initial start. And I'm gonna close this cover, and we will see what else we can do. Okay guys, we're gonna continue in the next video, because this one became too long. But lately I've been shooting so much footage that I don't know when I'm gonna start a new video, when I'm gonna finish. So I don't really shoot any more proper openings and proper endings for videos, so I'm sorry. We're gonna catch up one day, and then we're gonna come back to the normal format. So anyways, thanks for watching guys, thanks for commenting and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.